This is a part of MOOC on nature-based solutions and green blue urban infrastructure. Topic is Introduction to Sustainable Development Goals, SDG 11, Sustainable City and Community. The context of this topic will be in Introduction to SDGs, SDG 11, Sustainable City and Community, Targets and Indicators of SDG 11, Sustainable Cities, Why They Matter. First parties, an introduction to SDGs. The 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development, adopted by all United Nations member states in 2015, provides a shared blueprint for peace and prosperity for people and the planet now and into the future. At its heart are the 17 Sustainable Development Goals, which are an urgent call for action by all countries, developed and developing, in a global partnership. They recognize that ending poverty and other deprivations must go hand in hand with strategies that improve health and education, reduce inequality, and spur economic growth, all while tackling climate change and working to preserve our oceans and forests. Now, let's see how SDGs were developed with initial events. In June 1992, at the Earth Summit in Rio de Janeiro, Brazil, more than 178 countries adopted Agenda 21, a comprehensive plan of action to build a global partnership for sustainable development to improve human lives and protect the environment. Agenda 21 is a comprehensive plan of action to be taken globally, nationally, and locally by organizations of the United Nations system, governments, and major groups in every area in which human impacts on the environment. The Millennium Summit was held from 6th to 8th of September in 2000 at United Nations headquarters in New York. In attendance were 149 heads of state and government and high-ranking officials from over 40 other countries. The main document, unanimously adopted, was the Millennium Declaration, was contained a statement of values, principles and objectives for international agenda for 21st century. It also set deadlines for many collective actions. The Johannesburg Declaration on Sustainable Development and the Plan of Implementation, adopted at the World Summit on Development in South Africa in 2002, reaffirmed the global community's commitment to poverty eradication and the environment and built on Agenda 21 in the Millennium Declaration by including more emphasis on multilateral partnership. This event brought together tens of thousands of participants, including heads of state and government, national delegates, and leaders from non-governmental organizations, businesses, and other major groups to focus the world's attention and direct action toward meeting difficult challenges, including improving people's lives and conserving our natural resources in a world that is growing population, with increasing demands for food, water, shelter, sanitation, energy, health services, and economic security. At the United Nations Conference on Sustainable Development, or Rio Plus 20, in Rio de Janeiro, Brazil, in June 2012, member states adopted the outcome document, The Future We Want, in which they decided to launch a process to develop a set of SDGs to build upon a Millennium Development Goals. The Rio Plus 20 outcome also contained other measures for implementing sustainable development, including mandates for future programs of work and development financing, small island developing states, and more. The conference also adopted groundbreaking guidelines on green economy policies. In 2013, the General Assembly set up a 30-member open group to develop a proposal on the SDGs. The member states have decided to use an innovative, constituency-based system of representation that is new to limited membership bodies of the General Assembly. This means that most of the seats in open working groups are shared by several countries. In January 2015, the General Assembly began the negotiation process on the post-2015 development agenda. The process culminated in the subsequent adoption of the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development, with 17 SDGs at its core, at the United Nations Sustainable Development Summit in September 2015. The process of arriving at the post-2015 development agenda was member state-led with broad participation from major groups and other civil society stakeholders. In 2015 was a landmark year for multilateralism and international policy shaping, with the adoption of several major agreements, which are Sendai Framework for Disaster Risk Reduction, Addis Ababa Action Agenda for Financing for Development, Transforming Our World, the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development, with its 17 SDGs, was adopted at the United Nations Sustainable Development Summit, and Paris Agreement on Climate Change. Now, the annual high-level political forum on sustainable development serves as the central United Nations platform for the follow-up and review of the SDGs. The forum meets annually under the auspices of the Economic and Social Council for 8 days, including a 3-day ministerial segment, and every 4 years at the level of heads of state and government under the auspices of the General Assembly for 2 days. The next part is SDG 11, Sustainable City and Community. To make cities and human settlements inclusive, safe, resilient and sustainable. The following video by United Cities and Local Governments will give you an introduction about SDG 11.
The world is becoming increasingly urban. We'll need to build a new city for 1 million people every week to keep up, or manage the growth of the cities we already have. The battle for sustainable development will be won or lost in our cities, working with the rural areas on which they depend for food and natural resources. Mayors and local governments are already taking action to win this battle. We provide basic services and work with slum dwellers and neighbourhoods to upgrade their living conditions. We improve air quality by investing in public transport and green mobility. We protect the environment through sustainable waste management. We tackle urban segregation by ensuring quality green and public spaces for all. We protect urban cultural heritage for future generations. We monitor and regulate land use to make cities more resilient to climate change and disasters. We involve our communities in planning for inclusive and sustainable urbanisation. Local and regional governments seek strong partnerships with national governments to ensure enabling legal frameworks and adequate resources, and play our full role in achieving Sustainable Development Goal 11, which is Sustainable Cities and Communities. The Sustainable Development Agenda depends on local governments.
The next part is targets and indicators of SDG 11. All of SDGs have targets and indicators for evaluation of its implementation. SDG 11 has 10 targets and 15 indicators. The 15 indicators of SDG 11 are urban slum population, public transport access, sustainable urbanization, urban planning management, cultural heritage, disaster deaths and injury, disaster losses, solid waste management, urban air pollution, open city spaces, safe city spaces, urban planning, integrated risk management, local risk management, and sustainable buildings. Here, it is an example of targets and corresponding indicators, because it will be a very long speech if I mention all targets and indicators of SDG 11. The first target is, by 2030, ensure access for all to adequate, safe, and affordable housing and basic services, and upgrade slums. The corresponding indicator for this target is proportion of urban population living in slums, informal settlements, or inadequate housing. Next target is, by 2030, provide access to safe, affordable, accessible, and sustainable transport system for all, improving road safety, notably by expanding public transport with special attention to the needs of those in vulnerable situations. Women, children, persons with disabilities, and older persons. The corresponding indicator for this target is proportion of population that has convenient access to public transport by sex, age, and persons with disabilities. For more information about all targets and indicators, please follow the link. The last part is sustainable cities, why they matter. Here are the questions that you might want to ask about SDG 11. The first one is, what's the goal here? The goal of SDG 11 is to make cities inclusive, safe, resilient, and sustainable. So why? The world is becoming increasingly urbanized. Since 2007, more than half of the world's population has been living in cities, and that share is projected to rise to 60% by 2030. Cities and metropolitan areas are powerhouses of economic growth, contributing about 60% of global gross domestic product. However, they also account for about 70% of global carbon emissions and over 60% of resource use. What are some of the most pressing challenges that cities face today? Inequality is a big concern. Over 1 billion people live in slums, and this number keeps rising. The levels of urban energy consumption and pollution are also worrying. Cities occupy just 3% of the Earth's land, but account for 60 to 80% of energy consumption and 70% of carbon emission. Many cities are also more vulnerable to climate change and natural disasters due to their high concentration of people and location, so building urban resilience is crucial to avoid human and social and economic losses. I live in a city, but I'm not affected by any of these issues. Why should I care? All these issues will eventually affect every citizen. Inequality can lead to unrest and insecurity. Pollution deteriorates everyone's health and affects workers' productivity, and therefore the economy, and natural disasters have the potential to disrupt everyone's lifestyle. Is it expensive to put sustainable practices in place? The cost is minimal in comparison with the benefits. For example, there is a cost to creating a functional public transport network, but the benefits are huge in terms of economic activity, quality of life, the environment, and the overall success of networked city. What happens if cities are just left to grow organically? The cost of poorly planned urbanization can be seen in some of the huge slums, tangled traffic, greenhouse gas emissions, and sprawling suburbs all over the world. Slums are a drag on GDP and lower life expectancy. By choosing to act sustainably, we choose to build cities where all citizens live a decent quality of life and form a part of a city's productive dynamic, creating shared prosperity and social stability without harming the environment. What can you do to help achieve this goal? Take an active interest in the governance and management of your city. Advocate for the kind of city you believe you need. Develop a vision for your building, street, and neighborhood and act on that vision. Are there enough jobs? Can your children walk to school safely? Can you walk with your family at night? How far is the nearest public transport? What is the air quality like? What are your shared public spaces like? The better the condition you create in your community, the greater the effect on your quality of life. All figures, graphs, and illustrations which was shown here are downloaded from the public open sources. Please follow the links of each illustrations for more detailed information. Thank you for your attention.